All right. Talk about John Fogerty then.
Well, you were mentioning Cat Stevens and someone not being happy about the review. It was more me than what Pauline did. Pauline did some of it. Okay, let's put things into perspective. I already gave a positive review for the Eagles. That was a live thing. And I think they were saying that it was like their first last tour or something like that. It was their last one. Bill Fry, who was in that concert, I think it was filmed 2005 or something like that. He's dead now. Folks, especially the person who was maybe mad, we'll say sad about the review I gave of Cat Stevens. You know how many Eagles albums I bought in my lifetime, like records, contemporary with them, with their actual existence, not including revivals. Okay, what does this symbolize? Zero. You know how many and I'm going to give a positive, get ready, a positive review of this live concert of John Fogerty. There's a lot of CCR songs. You know how many John Fogerty / CCR albums I've bought in my lifetime? One. Okay, how many Cat Stevens albums did I buy in my lifetime? 2. When I give a negative review of Cat Stevens, I'm coming from within, as it were. I'm a Cat Stevens fan in terms of my origins. I liked him enough that I bought 2 albums of his in a row. And then I started listening to the lyrics. And it was something around 17, 18 years or 16, 17 years. And I'm going, I can't write as much as this. At that point in time, he would have been Cat Stevens would have been something like 22, 23, fairly young. But I can't write as voluminously, but I can write better. And I wasn't saying, wow, Cat Stevens is awesome. I'm awesomer. More awesome. I was saying, man, the reason why I don't write much stuff is I know I'm not writing well. I'm trying to write the best I can. I had that kind of critical faculty with myself. And Cat Stevens apparently didn't have it. You can see him like he's got his eyes closed, playing the piano, he's just really getting into what he's singing, or he's playing the guitar, moving his head around the same way, really getting into what he's singing. And I'm going, this is when I'm 16, 17, 18. I'm going, this guy does not have as much of a critical faculty as I have, and frankly, he just doesn't have as much talent as I have. Not to say that I thought I had much talent. I was working away at it, and I realized I had to get better. One time, one person said to, we're not going to say who it was, to Pauline at work, this is before Pauline and I became an item. So this third party was saying to Pauline about me, well, that guy isn't as smart as he thinks he is he? And I don't know what Pauline said, and presumably she said something kind of neutral. But if I'd been a fly on the wall and could speak, I would have said, he's smarter than he thinks he is. Oh. What does that mean?
I would never say anything.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was just making notes. I thought it was funny that somebody said Izzy, because it's like, I just found it interesting that they thought highly of me. They thought that I could decide for them who they should respect or whatever, It's a very funny thing.
My reading, and I know at that point in time, I knew that guy way better than you did. My reading, now you ended up having to work with that guy for a while. So. But my reading of it would be, that guy isn't as smart as I am. And I'm seeing through him. But, yeah. Anyway, my response would have been, no, James is smarter than he thinks he is. What does that mean? Well, for me, you can interpret it however you like it. But for me, what that means is I understand that I have to get smarter. You know how that is? Maybe you don't. I understand I have to get smarter. Doesn't matter how smart I am. I was a lot smarter than that guy then. I'm way smarter than I was then. I'm way smarter than that guy. Because that guy just was the kind of guy who thought he was really smart. He thought he was smarter than me. And back then, he wasn't even close. And now, you see, because he thinks he's smarter than he actually is. Whereas with me, I don't think I'm smarter than I actually am. And so I constantly have to be improving. See the difference? Huge difference. It's not a difference of degree. It's a difference in quality. It's not a difference in quantity. It's a difference in quality. That guy's not even the same universe that I am. I'm in the universe where everyone should be at, where they're lifelong learners, and then they use what they learn to discover. So they become lifelong discoverers. I'm not saying I'm in another dimension or something like that, like a genius. Everyone's a genius unless they've got some real physical problems with their brain. Everyone is, potentially. How many people actually realize their potential? I don't know how low it is, but it's really sadly low. Anyway, Cat Stevens, when I give him a negative review, it's because he was a huge disappointment. Huge talent, and I'm saying it, a huge talent. But he didn't realize that he had to improve as a lyricist. I'm reminded of a woman, a Canadian rock pop artist that I interviewed back about 1979. And she was coming through the last wave of disco. I think she was still a teenager. And so I was interviewing her at the El Rancho, or what was it called? I think El Rancho. And her manager was there. He's a bit of a Svengali. And I just said, disco's dead. You know, like, you got to be moving into something else. Oh, the manager was exploding. He wasn't even ready to explode. And she actually, this was empowering for her as well as for me. She just told him to get lost. The manager, get lost. So I wasn't dissing her. Like I was saying, wow, you're a fantabulous dancer. You're a fantabulous, even better singer, all this sort of stuff. But your lyrics don't work out, you know, like you got to work on it. And she was saying, well, here's some lyrics. Can you understand them? I go, no, I can't. It's like Pauline was saying about Cat Stevens' lyrics or whatever. And she listened to what I was saying. Now, one of the things is I hope she didn't take what I was saying too seriously about disco, because I respect people who can dance. One video I saw, she ended up, doing videos, a few of them. She ended up being more of a producer. You still hear about her doing production. Long may you live. Her first name's Lisa. I'm not going to mention the last name.
Yeah, almost 8 pounds today. So
awesome.
That was a little over 8 pounds, a little over 8 yesterday.
Okay.
And a little under today.
Well, there we go.
That's
average
incredible.
8 pounds per day. Anyway.
Well, we won't for a couple days because, we have a plus 31 day coming up tomorrow. So
I'll be watering?
A fair amount.
Okay, so what are we going to be doing tomorrow then? Watering?
Well, if they need it, you just check.
Okay.
But the next couple days afterwards are going to be cooler. So that'll be a nice little break. And the tomatoes will only be growing if it's about 8 degrees Celsius or above
at
night.
Yeah.
So they won't be growing for a couple days. It's going down to, I think, 6 or something like that. So
yeah, it doesn't get much lower than that.
So I don't expect
hate for them to freeze at this stage.
No, they won't. It'll keep going. Anyway, so that's all I really had to say is tell you about the harvest And now you can go back to John Fogerty.
No, I was actually talking about Lisa blank, blank, blank. But
Yes, well, that's all
yeah.
right.
Anyway,
It's getting back to Fogerty.
she actually got serious about it, about writing lyrics and all that sort of stuff. So she gave up the dancing. She should have kept on doing that, but doing it in a well, she still had a phenomenal voice, absolutely phenomenal voice. So I don't know whether I should feel responsible about that, but she ended up being like a producer and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know if I had much to do with that. I might have. It was phenomenal how she just told her management Svengali type of idiot to get lost, because she was into learning. We should be learning. She was still young. She might still have been in her late teens. But people should be in the equivalent of their late teens their whole life, so long as their brain lasts. And Cat Stevens, someone should have been telling him. Some rock critic, you write decent lyrics. Work with someone. Or read some books or something like that. Anyway, John Fogerty. I only bought one CCR/John Fogerty album in my whole life. And I'm going to tell you, I traded it with my brother straight across, one-on-one, for the Rolling Stones American version of Aftermath. The one with Under My Thumb, painted black. It ain't, how does that one go? It ain't easy. So easy. It's not easy. So on and so forth. So.
Let's see if I cook this enough. Looks okay to me. Maybe not so much on that side. I didn't look at it. I was in a hurry. Yeah, it looks a little light on that side.
Yeah, it should look deeper yellow. We used to grow corn, well over people's heads. In Africa, of course, it was hot there. It was in the tropics, just barely, but it was in the tropics. A lot of sun, a lot of heat. And actually, in the growing season, there was a lot of moisture. It was a savanna climate. So it's kind of deserty in the wintertime, actually, or in the dry season, and then kind of like jungly climate I guess that would be the summertime. It was around Christmas time. Heavy amounts of rain. So it was in the southern hemisphere. So. Anyway, are you going to eat it and give your judgment?
It
No?
doesn't matter. I'm using my finger to put butter on it. I don't normally eat corn with butter, but we had some, so might as well.
But that's probably from the pancake breakfast.
Yeah.
Glad I grabbed some. Maybe you grabbed some. Okay.
It's still really good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So can I go back to the review?
Of course.
Okay.
You didn't have to stop for me.
No. Anyway, so I only bought one, and I traded it when I was still young with my brother for Aftermath, Rolling Stones Aftermath, and I didn't really overly regret that. There's some classic stuff here. Since then, like once I started buying CDs, and that's when I was 50 years old or so. I bought complete, more than complete, Creedence Clearwater CD collection. So it included stuff that was, I don't think, ever released, early stuff. And there's some great tunes here. Bruce Springsteen once said that they were the greatest rock and roll band of their time, I guess. And I think when it comes to American bands, maybe. Certainly not better than the Beatles. But at any rate, it starts off, I think they're John Fogerty, I should say, not they. John Fogerty's channeling Little Richard on this, or was. I think it was released in 1970. Traveling band, way better than Little Richard. Why is that? It actually has lyrics. Listen to the radio, talking about the last show. He doesn't even come up with a rhyme. It's just someone called the state. Someone got excited and they called the state militia. I want to move. So it's 12-bar blues. But you don't know it's 12-bar blues. Why? It's so hopped up. That's the thing I like about rock and roll. A lot of it's just 12-bar blues. But they're doing it faster. Typical 12-bar blues. And you're going, wake me up when it's over if I survive. Eh? Yeah. Traveling band. Awesome song. Awesome song. Around this time, 1970, the end of 1970, Rolling Stone, was it, interviewing John Lennon. And they were asking his response to various sorts of things. So, various sorts of acts. And they asked, what do you think of James Taylor? I don't much care for Sweet Baby, is what he said. And James Taylor's first album was released on the Beatles' Apple Records. One of the first records they released by any band, including themselves. It would have been 68, maybe early 69. And it had something called Something in the Way She Moves on it. I think George Harrison maybe listened to that one a little bit closely, too closely, and maybe copped that line. But anyway, John Lennon said, I don't care for Sweet Baby that much. But then someone brought up, or he brought it up himself, CCR, and he said something like, I love them beautiful Clearwater music. John Lennon. He knew he had ears. Okay? You have the ears. Let him hear. King James Version of You Know What. Traveling band. Awesome. When you cut Little Richard, you are up there. When you cut Little Richard, you are up there. And on this song, Fogerty cuts him to pieces. Right? So did Creedence way back in the day. This is live. Green River, kind of it reminds me of Mark Twain or something like that. Who'll Stop the Rain? Jesus H. God. You know, I figured it out somewhere along the line that was about Woodstock. These guys are at Woodstock. I don't know if you see them at all in the movie, even or even hear them in the extended release and stuff like that. I think John Fogerty's a little bit of a crusty, crotchety guy. Even back then, when he was a young pup, he didn't allow them, so I've read, didn't allow Creedence to be filmed. And apparently when they got off stage at Woodstock, he was cussing the band out. He thought they weren't up to performance. Everyone else, backstage, up front, they were going, maybe the best of all the acts. Now, there were some amazing acts there, at least in terms of sound, like Carlos Santana, the band Santana, and Sly and the Family Stone. Their lyrics weren't much to speak of. The fact is, Santana was largely just instrumental. But as far as I'm concerned, the best of that, because there was actually lyrics and harmonies and stuff like that, were Crosby, Stills, Nash. I wish we could have seen Young, but Young was kind of a crusty, crotchety guy, and he didn't allow himself to be filmed, even when the rest of the band was being filmed. But yeah. Anyway, apparently Creedence was one of the best acts there. And Who'll Stop the Rain is about that. And I'd figured that out back when I was a kid. But here he makes it clear. He's talking about helicopters coming in on a helicopter and hitchhiking out. Maybe they did hitchhike. It was a real schmozzle. And that's the only way they could get acts in there ultimately, because the roads were all a schmozzle. They had a helicopter then. Neil Young, he was there. You just won't see any evidence of it on film. He did one song, I think it's Roll Another Number for the Road. I'm a million miles away from that helicopter day. I don't think I'll be going back, something or other. It's Again, contrast that with Joni Mitchell. Wasn't even there. Her version of Woodstock, she wasn't even there. She was on the Johnny Carson show or something like that. Dick Cavett show. No, Dick Cavett show. Anyway, one of those. But again, who'll stop the rain? The crowd had rushed together, trying to stay warm. Wow. Still the rain kept falling around my ear. And I wondered, who'll stop the rain? Awesome. Dude, if you're still alive, thank you for doing that song. It's a realistic look at Woodstock. Not the Joni Mitchell thing. She wasn't even there, wow. The bombers turning into butterflies in the sky or something. Yeah, what's that about? 5 minutes?
8.
8, okay. Blue Moon Nights, I think that's one of his solo ones. Lodi. That's when I started liking Creedence. I didn't like Creedence a lot. I listened to some of their albums. There's way too much guitar booging, he's not a great soloist or anything like that. He's a great guitarist. In terms, especially of writing for guitar. It doesn't matter if it's acoustic or electric. But Lodi, yeah. It didn't even strike me as being country. Of course, to people nowadays, that's more country than Garth Brooks. But it's a realistic look at rock and roll. These guys were hanging around rock and roll for years before they even got a sniff at the big time. And that's what it's about. You listen to it. It's poetic. Listen to it sneaks up on you. The alliteration. Oh, Lord. And it's consonants, too. Stuck in Lodi again. Where's Lodi? Is that just made up? Oh, it's a place in Central California. If you're stuck in Lodi. Nothing is... He could have sung Lethbridge. Nothing against Lethbridge or Lodi. It just ain't the big time. Stuck in Lodi again. Looking out my back door. I think that's their Creedence's or John Fogerty's response. It's a psychedelic song or something like that. And of course he did it rockabilly, which to me it sounded like country. Even then, back in, I think that was 1970, off of their Cosmos Factory album. Hot Rod, Hard Rambunctious Boy. I mean, there's stuff here that I'd never heard before. I'm going, got me by the leg at least. Because I'm kind of tapping my foot. Run through the jungle. I was saying to Pauline, I think that thing's about Vietnam. And then right after that, he starts talking about being in the army. And he said, it might have been true, I don't know, that he was in Vietnam. But those guys, at least he was, I think his bro was too, they were actually in the army. You listen to it, you fake left-wingers at universities, you flunky, this is folk music, this is rock and roll music for real working people. Not the stupid stuff done by Jefferson Airplane or Grateful Dead or whatever. You guys are off in La La Land. You've got no clue what working class people are like. You've got no clue what it's like to be left-wing. Many of you have never done an honest day's work in your life. And who am I to be speaking? I'm the kind of guy who got an English degree while working, and then after I had an English degree, working at jobs like Joe and Jane jobs, janitorial, truck driving, groundskeeping, landscaping, machine operating. You listen to that. I never did a management job in my life and never did a teaching job in my life. Any tutoring or teaching that I've done for free. And you flunkies from university, if you can't do it for free, get off of the pot. I got no use for you. You think you've got unions? Here's a union guy for you. Head of a union at a particular university for a while. He said, unions, universities are basically guilds. You're guild people. You're not union people. You're apprentices and masters. And when you get up into being professors, you're masters, and the students you're bringing along are apprentices. You're not unions. You're not left-wingers. Get off the pot, cut out the fakiness, and get down to real life. Stop supporting idiots like Bernie Sanders, Russian agents. You guys are as bad as the Trumpists, you stupid chimps. Okay. Deja Vu all over again. There he's channeling Yogi Berra. I think Yogi Berra said that in one review. So that's no Yogi Berra. It's the guy who was on the most World Series championships of all, even more than Mickey Mantle. Yogi Berra. Have you ever seen The Rain? I think I said to Pauline, I think that was when he was trying to show he's better than the Beatles. He wasn't, but he was going up against two great writers and three great instrumentalists. Tombstone Shadow, 12-bar blues, but pretty well done. Keep on Sugaling. When they're doing a kind of a party song, I don't know. Sweet Hitchhiker, awesome. It sounds as though, like he's a real stud on a motorcycle or stuff like that, but he gets stood up by the Sweet Hitchhiker. Thing Creedence and John Fogerty. You're going to get real life here. You're going to get real life. The one thing I regret is, you got all these alternative rock types and Nirvana types strutting around in lumberjack jackets and shirts and stuff like that. You're looking at the guy who invented that, and I wish he'd come out in something like a lumberjack shirt or jacket. Neil Young was the guy I think the Nirvana and stuff like that were imitating. And to get that off of Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. You listen to Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere. The reason why that's Neil Young's best album is because he was channeling Creedence on that. You listen to that stuff, it's Creedence. Only a little bit better than Creedence, actually. We're talking Cinnamon Girl and Cowgirl in the Sand. It's freaking-tastic. I almost cussed there. But, it's hard to beat Creedence. That's how good Neil Young was on that. But he was even channeling the look. Sweet Hitchhiker, Hey Tonight. Yeah, it's a pop song. Down on the Corner. Well, that's, it's kind of like what they were for a long while. They were almost like busking. They were that poorly off. Why? Because the oldest brother had to be leading that band, writing the song, doing the lead singing. He's a crappy lead singer, crappy lyric writer, not a very good pop writer, and he had to be doing all that stuff. I don't know if he's doing something like the lead guitar. Here's the guy, the younger pup, John Fogerty. Phenomenal singer. Great guitar player, and in particular when it comes to, like Pauline was pointing it out with one song, man, oh man, that guitar signature is really, really just recognizable. It's pretty simple, but it's catchy. Down on the Corner. So yeah, there we go. Center Field. The guy seems to like baseball. Was that the one where he came up with a baseball-shaped guitar?
Yeah, that was pretty great.
Up Around the Bend. I don't know where Up Around the Bend is.
Baseball bat.
But I feel like following Up Around the Bend because he sounds really enthused.
A baseball-shaped guitar would be interesting.
Oh, a baseball bat, yeah. The Old Man Down the Road, never liked that song that much, but Fortunate Son, holy smokes. That's the best protest song I've ever heard come out of the 60s. I think it was actually 1970 or something like that. You can't beat that. Or if you can, do it.
Yeah, that song
But that's better than Imagine. It blows Imagine out of the door, out of the water. It blows its doors, floors, and drawers off. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what it's like for real people.
We were talking about Cat Stevens in the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And, Peace Train.
It's garbage. God. Yeah, it's garbage. You listen to Fortunate Song. Now, there's a couple of locutions that are a little bit clumsy, but that's what it was like. This is a guy who served. I don't know if he actually served in Vietnam, but he's talking about the general pointing the gun at you.